Welcome back to Just Giants with Grump and the Cranky Fan, the best damn podcast for the best damn football team. I am your host, the Football Grump, and with me as always is Mike the Cranky Fan.
Grump, I'm about to turn 49 in 4 days, and so that means I've been watching sports for a good 40 years, and I can't think of a worse day I've had watching sports that didn't involve a Florida football loss in 40 years. I mean, never mind, we'll talk, obviously this show is Just Giants, not just Rays, but you compound the brutal way the Rays lost Game 3 last night, with an obviously rigged Major League Baseball trying to keep the Red Sox in as long as they can, with just a debilitating loss by the Giants. And never mind they lost to one of your biggest rivals, but the way it went down and just the hopelessness we have this year with, the injuries and stuff. I don't know if I've ever felt worse, at 11 o'clock at night for just watching sports.
This was tough because it wasn't one loss. It was like 12. The Giants rolled into this game with a surprise. I mean, it wasn't really a surprise. Over the weekend, there was some talk about Andrew Thomas limping a little bit. I even flippantly was like, well, I mean, my comment was more towards, like, if he has to play, what percentage is he going to be at? My reminder was that he played most of last year on a bum foot anyway. So I would, if he plays at 75% or whatever, like, I was going to be okay with it. But I really didn't expect him to be out. Andrew Thomas was determined to be out at the start of the game, which initially signaled pretty much demise. But I couldn't have imagined this loss would have also involved Saquon Barkley on an unrelated injury and a completely fluky injury that could have happened to me. I mean, honestly, walking around my apartment. Daniel Jones with probably one of the... I've talked to people before about, like, gruesome looking broken limbs and stuff like that, and I can kind of handle that stuff, but what I actually can't handle was looking at people the way that I saw Daniel Jones after he got smacked in the head, really, on a football play. Nothing flagrant or illegal about it, but truly, I mean, stumbling around, he is out to lunch in outer space. Had no clue he was the quarterback for the Giants in that moment. And that, to me, is tough to watch. And then, Kenny Golladay hyperextends his knee, completely random. Matt Skura had some injury. I believe he was pointing at his leg, is all I've heard about this. Kadarius Toney fought through an ankle injury like a pro. But, I mean, he's going to be a little bit week to week, day to day. And, something happened to Kadarius Williams where he left the game too, and I couldn't really follow up on any of that information either. But I mean, it's like a who's list of people we were excited about.
Well, it's the hope for the future of those guys, isn't it? Isn't it Daniel Jones? Isn't it Saquon Barkley? Isn't it Kadarius Toney? Isn't it Kenny Golladay? It's kind of why we're
Andrew Thomas. Yeah, it's all those guys.
I mean, if we know what we are now, and we're trying to decide if we're just a loser or a bad team, those are the guys who are going to pull us out of this malaise, and they all drop like flies. I do want to preface this show by, and I'm sure if you follow me on Twitter at the Cranky Fan, I did have divided attention during the game. So I was spending 90% of my focus watching baseball, and I did have the Giants game on the TV, like, over here. So I knew what was going on, but I really didn't until I got into my I watched the replay of it this morning. So Grump, you're going to have to kind of take a little bit more of the lead. You take the great lead already in this, but, you're going to be more the expert on this game. But I know enough to know that I didn't like what I saw, obviously the injury standpoint, but just, how this defense was playing. This was going to be very, very difficult to win, even if we were at full strength. And that's what's depressing.
Yeah, defense was bad. Overall, I mean, we knew going. I don't want to grade this game or provide commentary on this game outside of what my expectations were going into this. I knew that stopping the run was going to be both very important to staying involved in this game and staying competitive, and also going to be a really tough ask for a defense that has not sufficiently stopped the run yet in 2021. They've looked bad since the preseason. I think I just kind of lightly mentioned it here and there, but I didn't harp on it because it's stupid preseason. What do I care, And then, some of the games can be circumstantial and game planning, against particular opponents, so you don't want to make that into a whole narrative. But at this point, I haven't seen good run defense from this team. And this was going to be a tough one anyway, but they were to say outmatched, I need a better vocabulary. They were on the run. At one point, Dallas converted a first down, and after the conversion, committed a personal foul penalty. The next play, I think this is correct, on one toss out to Bernard Pollard, they gained all of it back in one play, one running play.
If you just look at Dallas and just look, you can tell when a team doesn't respect the other team that they're playing.
Oh, well, Kellen Moore at a certain point was just toying with us. They ran a brilliant... Okay, hang on. The Fox broadcast couldn't get over how brilliant it was to run a fake toss that then becomes a flat route. To me, that wasn't really all that brilliant. That's really just a different form of play action becoming a flat route.
That's Aikman having his tongue up their ass anyway.
I'll get into all that. But
there's a baseline with that, so...
But Kellen Moore did actually drop something brilliant, and it was something that is a huge deficiency in this defense. This defense has to crack down and swarm on the ball. So what they did was they ran like a wide receiver screen to the side where they had two, screens. So they had blocking wide receivers, I guess, and really it was just a pass, but it was a throw all the way to beat us deep, and we absolutely 100% bid on it. Every corner left their guy to swarm up on the receiver, and I think it was Cedric Wilson throwing to CeeDee Lamb, who was so wide open it wasn't funny. Only reason it wasn't a touchdown is because it was probably the worst pass I've ever seen in my life.
But even little things like when noted domestic violence master Ezekiel Elliott is goose stepping into the end zone.
Yeah,
because he's so there's no one within him within 20 miles. That's the type of disrespect that when you just don't have respect for the team you're playing against. And you could just see it, like on the sideline and just their reactions of the Cowboys after plays and stuff, because they're having so many big plays and just the ease of what they were doing. And, I don't know, Grump. Think of where we were this time last year. The complete chaos that Dallas was in. We were no beauties either, but it just seems like in the course of 1 year, Dallas is completely different, and we are still kind of stuck in the mud, and that's frustrating to me.
I don't know. I'm gonna say hold it a little bit on Dallas.
I didn't say they're going to the Super Bowl, but I'm saying from where they were last year as part of the lower part of a bad pack, they are clearly the best team in this division right now.
Well, not to turn this into a Cowboys podcast, but they had some. They did some. 1 year did a lot for them, they shredded off some contracts I don't think they really needed. Who's the corner they lost? I didn't think was all that much. Byron Jones, Byron Murphy. I forget his name. I don't think he's that good. They lost him. They switch out defensive coordinators is a big thing. They had a bunch of guys signed to 1 year deals last year that didn't pan out. And they have McCoy that immediately got injured. And stuff like that. So they had some turnover where a year off, that year advancement did a lot for them, allowed them to do a lot of things. Dan Quinn alone is a really big step that only would have happened advancing it 1 year. He was a head coach last year, was he not? Or was he?
No, he was out. I think the year before.
Was he?
I believe so.
No,
he was out last year. He got a job. Yeah, because we were saying he'll get a job immediately somewhere, and he got one.
That does a lot for them. Also, second year in Mike McCarthy's system. So, and quite frankly, they have a lot of personalities on the team that just straight up quit on them early on in that year. So there's a lot of things that go into why is Dallas and all that stuff.
Well, that's my point. All these things did happen, though. And it's
and I don't.
It's very frustrating.
So this is one of the things that really, really frustrates me is that, the only true super disappointing things I think about this Giants roster for me is Matt Parrott's lack of development on the right tackle side, and I don't want to completely shut that down. I'll get into the Dallas game version of that in a minute, but that and the run defense. Other than that, I haven't really seen. I don't know. I guess the pass rush and the run defense are two things.
And the running game. The running game sucks too.
I can't even. Yeah. How can I possibly comment on that without the starting left guard at any point this year and the starting center after like a minute? But I'm going. My expectations. I can only be disappointed for my own expectations. And if you told me that Nick Gates and Shane Lemieux were going to be out and we'd be pulling guys in off the scrap heap the day before games and shit like that, I would have told you immediately the running game would be nothing. There'd be no chance. So
I see what you're saying.
I have no barometer of what this team was supposed to be this year. I have no gauge. And now I have even less of a gauge. I was hoping to, by week 6, week 7, have some level of understanding of this team, Shane Lemieux aside. But
we were hoping, my gauge was, and I think you hit the point, is I expected this team to build on a very strong defensive performance last year. Mm-hmm. And they picked up some pieces that would make it even better. And another year together, other than losing Dalvin Tomlinson, basically, and the thing is, the run defense up the middle isn't nearly as bad as it is on the edges. I mean, if people don't just gash us up the middle all the time, they go right. I mean, I have on my notes here over and over, running right, getting 6, 7, 8 yards, 3rd and 3, no problem, running right, getting it. It's not like it's they're just like it's a sieve right up the middle or anything. So that's the biggest issue with me. The disappointment on this team is just I expected this to be a top 10 defense, and this is I don't know what the numbers are, but we're like a bottom 10 defense right now.
I would disagree with anything that had us above 32. I mean, we're bad. They are bad, and
the question's why.
I think some of it is Dalvin Tomlinson. They tried their best to replace him using different people, and it didn't work. Danny Shelton is bad. I can say definitively through week 5 he has been a major disappointment. And I didn't expect him to be some all-world, but I mean, getting blown off the ball by a single guy is not what I expected from Danny Shelton. I expected at least stalemate that. He's been bad. And some of that run defense, some of it is Blake Martinez. I mean, that's our leading tackler. He's like the NFL leading tackler year after year. That's going to be huge.
But when did he get hurt? Week 4?
Week 2?
Was it week 2?
It was the home game. Week 3. It was. It was essentially. Yeah. It was the Falcons game. We were there.
This defense was disappointing before that point too.
It's
making the snowball roll down the hill faster, but it's not all of a sudden there was like he was gone and there was a drop off. This defense was underachieving, from the opening kickoff this year.
But I think it's been compounded by the lack of Blake Martinez for sure.
That's the snowball.
Exactly. It was bad, and now it's not going to get any better. And to their credit, I think Reggie Ragland and Tate Crowder have performed admirably in his role. You know what I mean? They've tried. I mean, Tate Crowder is still really young, so.
Yeah. But I mean, the story of this game though, and the worry about the short-term and intermediate-term future is these injuries. I mean, it's just, we don't know how long Daniel Jones is going to be out for.
I really don't know. I mean, and concussions are weird because I don't know his concussion history, but I'm certain that whatever I Google won't be accurate. A lot of people, I mean, no, really. I mean, seriously, how many of these people have concussions in high school? It goes unreported, They practice on their own their whole life too. I mean, any number of things can happen to these kids that is unreported. So if you've made it to the NFL, I guarantee you, no matter who you are, your concussion number of how many times is off.
Scrambled a few times.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's part of it. But I mean, that one looked brutal. That one really seemed to. I mean, there are times where you hear guys have concussions and all they did was kind of fall funny, and they looked fine, but the doctor's like, yeah, he got a concussion. I mean, that one it was beyond immediate. He didn't get up,
worried
and
it
when
was
he
something
got up, he was in Field of Dreams, man. He was wandering through corn. He really had no fucking clue where he was. That. I am still right now, Monday evening, worried about him. Seriously. Should we get into why that play pissed me the fuck off? Because that's a little bit of a rant. I can skip it for now.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. I hated that.
The playoffs, you might as well. Go ahead.
Look, it's the Reds. The play calling in this has been aggressive. Jason Garrett has kept his foot on the gas pedal, through a couple weeks now. I'll give credit for that, but the red zone play calling has still not gotten better, and this was a particularly pathetic sequence of events here, so I'll just kind of breeze through it without getting too mad as best as I can. The Giants line up in some strange-looking formation with, some kind of, wing set off to the friggin' right, or, I don't know, some 3 tight end looking sent to the right with a single back setup with Saquon Barkley or whoever. No, it couldn't have been. It had to be Booker.
Barkley's already gone.
Yeah. They line up and they run it, but it gets blown dead because of a timeout. So they've already technically run it. They've seen it. They know the play. We line up after the timeout and we run it again. Predictably, it doesn't get in the end zone. Okay, we run it a second time on second down. It still doesn't go in. So what do? On third down, we run the bootleg off of the exact same play. The bootleg works only partially because of quarterback's athleticism. Bootlegs, Peyton Manning runs bootlegs. It's not about athleticism. It's about the sheer surprise of it. There is zero level of surprise. There's no surprises when you run the same play 3 times. They know every variation of everything to look out for when you run a play like that. Now, part of that also is I could wring Kyle Rudolph's neck for his pathetic attempt at a block on that play. I mean, that play was pretty much doomed, but maybe Daniel Jones gets to the pylon or something if there's only 1 defender there, but there's 2 because Kyle Rudolph pretty much shoved a guy and then walked away from the play. Yeah. And he would continue that attitude later when Kadarius Toney got wrestled to the ground and body slammed. Late after the whistle, he just kind of threw his body in there and then put his arms up and walked away. And then turned around and acknowledged that there was a scrum going on and just continued to walk. How many
times have we had, a red zone situation or goal to goal, and again, if it's even third down, if at all, do we even make an attempt to throw the ball in the end zone? I mean, it is so predictable on first down. This team is running the ball.
The worst part of that sequence, by the way, is that after Daniel Jones' concussion, we lined up on 4th and goal and just had Devontae Booker dive over the pile for a touchdown.
Yeah.
Boy, that was tough. I mean, any play. I wish, dude, for years, and I guarantee you right now, if I were to just be a guest on a Seahawks podcast, I could bring up the goal line play in the Super Bowl, and it would spark a debate over whether or not that was the right play call. And, this is years removed from that. I wish you and I could be having arguments like that, where it's an actual debate over whether or not it was a smart play call. There's no debate here. This is pathetic. This is literally somebody playing Madden, running the same play 3 times in a row. I can't even believe that I was as calm as I was watching it, just shaking my head in frustration. I should have been screaming at my TV like a lunatic.
We're just getting numb to it. I mean, we're just getting numb to just bad red zone play calling. And it's not like we have no weapons. I mean, why we have a Kyle Rudolph? Isn't that why we got him?
To block? Or to be an end zone threat?
To be an end zone threat.
Yeah, I'm sure he's wondering what the fuck he's doing here at this point.
That's probably why he doesn't care anymore. It's I was brought in here under false pretenses. I'm just sitting here doing nothing. He's probably super frustrated.
Yeah.
I mean, again, here off season, all these weapons we have, well, it comes down to, in the red zone we're doing nothing. We're trying nothing to use advantages we have, physical advantages or anything, and it's just, it shouldn't be that difficult to score once you're in there.
It shouldn't be that pathetic. I mean, it's one thing to be bad, but I mean, it's it's almost like you're relying entirely on athleticism at the goal line. It seems like there's no attempt to make like a strategic advantage.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's
like
what I'm trying to say.
it really looks like it's just like we're gonna just pound it home, and like that's okay if that's like your identity. Is that our identity? Is pounding the ball? It's clearly not working. In any part of the field at any given moment in any game against any opponent, we are not pounding the ball fucking anywhere. So why is this our identity where we're just going to pound the ball in the end zone? It's just going to fucking work.
Because that's our culture. And this goes back to my rant from a couple of weeks ago that pound the rock, hog mollies, lunchbox, all that nonsense. And that's not what we are. That's not how we're built, due to injury or for whatever roster construction. That's not what we are. That's what we want to be for some reason, but we aren't. And I don't know why the play calling reflects something that we want to be as opposed to what we are.
I'm okay with running the ball there. It's just like run something that is creative. I mean, like, what would you do if you saw Daniel Jones take a shotgun snap and do a jump pass Tebow style to Caden Smith? Would your jaw hit the floor and your tongue unroll like a red carpet? I don't know what I would do if I saw Jason Garrett call that shit.
Just a quick 2-yard slant or something. I mean, anything of any imagination or anything that's just not so predictable.
Yeah.
At this point, it doesn't have to be fancy like that, like a memorable play call, like something that makes the defense pause and be like, oh, these guys are going out there. They're just not running around like fools. They may actually be targeting them.
I would say now our best method of surprise is our own predictability.
They're really going to run that play at third? Oh, they really ran it again.
Yeah. I don't even know. I'm really frustrated because every red zone trip seems to be highlighted by some. I want to be able to complain about something other than Jason Garrett or just coaching, but it's so hard.
The frustrating part about it, Grump, is that to get to the red zone, we're seeing some impressiveness on the offense.
Yes.
We're seeing Daniel Jones move the ball down the field. We are seeing playmakers make plays. We're seeing the emergence of Kadarius Toney, which we knew all along this is what he has the potential of. He's actually, a game like that's actually exceeding potential of what I think he could be. But the thing is, we are moving from 20 to 20, but it is all just the creativity and the personnel just gets sucked out the window once we get in the red zone, and I don't understand it. Is it because of a fear of Daniel Jones from 2019 that he'll be a fumble machine or a turnover machine?
I really don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. I wish I had an explanation because it's a totally valid and it's not an uncommon thing for a team to be good at moving the ball downfield but struggle in the condensed space of the red zone. That's a fairly common thing. We've heard of that before. But it doesn't seem that that's our case because we're just running stupid different plays that as soon as you see it, you're like, why would we run an end around to Evan Ingram on the 1 yard line? We're not at the 15 or the 10 or anywhere.
Trying to create like a Sports Center highlight more than just get the 7.
He's got to go 1 yard this way. We're making him run 58 yards that way. Why? Against 11 other guys moving laterally. It's always highlighted by shit like that.
It's like in his contract he has to run it one time one time a game when he's in the red zone he has to run that play. Mm-hmm. It seems like there's something that doesn't, like there's an X factor we're not factoring in why this is happening. Yeah,
I don't know. I do want to talk about Kadarius Toney for a little bit though, because he was beyond exceptional. I mean, and some of those catches, I think like the last 2 catches probably, which was the possession in which he was ejected, those were kind of the result of Dallas playing off. They had a fairly comfortable lead. They're letting us waste time, kind of things. But it was still the yak that he was getting after the fact was electric. Yeah. And it was more than probably any other receiver would get. Maybe Sterling Shepard has some pretty sweet moves in small spaces. But
He doesn't have nearly the moves that Kadarius Tony does.
No, not, especially not with a full head of speed. But
he's looked twitchy this year, but not at the level Kadarius Tony's capable of.
Yeah, no. I totally agree. But what I didn't expect out of Tony at all were like his first 2 catches were ridiculous. Like on the sideline, I mean the first catch that Daniel Jones had of the day was honestly a complete prayer. He just knew he had one-on-one coverage. He had 2 guys in his face immediately, just kind of shuffled to his right to buy enough time for Tony to get some level of depth on his route, and just heaved it. And, to be fair to Daniel Jones, that was incredibly accurate for how that was launched. But, I mean, Tony not even just having the concentration to make the catch, but how he got his feet in bounds was a fairly good stroke of luck, but unbelievable catch.
And those are 2 things that, he's known for being a twitchy guy and being a human joystick and all that stuff. He was not really known, especially in the beginning of his career at Florida, for having the greatest hands. Like last year was the first year it was like, this guy is a reliable pass catcher first, and then all this stuff, once he caught the ball. So to see this continued progression of him to having more reliable. Now he's not going to be perfect. He's going to have his drop or 2.
He had a drop in this game. I believe it was Daniel. It was his first target, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, he's still a work in process in that regard. But just again, you guys are seeing him. The vast majority of you. This is only like the 4th game you've seen him play. I've seen him play 35, 40 games, and to even see the year over year from this year to last year. Because he was not the number 1 target last year. This team was, had guys up and down the roster of talent all over the place. But yeah, it's really encouraging. That's the good side of Kadarius Toney. The bad side?
Well, the fight. I mean, I'm hoping that this got out of his system real early. I'm hoping that because, I obviously don't know what's being said in between. It's clear that there was a lot of chatter the whole game between all of the players. So there's that going on. But in terms of in terms of the play itself, it's something that happens probably in every football game at one point to somebody. Where there's just kind of this pile and then, they're blowing the whistles, they're blowing it dead, and then really, really late, somebody gets dumped. And it usually gets flagged. Whatever. My point isn't that he doesn't need to stand up to himself or that I'm mad at him for fighting. It's just that if you're going to fight, make it worth it. And to me, that situation's going to happen to you a lot. So if that's when you decide you're going to start throwing fists, I think you should double check your standards a little bit. And again, I don't know, obviously, what's going on in between. Maybe at the bottom of the pile, he's poking him in the eye or something. I really don't know. Who knows, right? Maybe I'm totally wrong about this situation that he's in, but if it's just that, he's going to have to deal with that. And if he's throwing fists every time, he's going to get ejected every time. He's going to have a real short time in the league.
Well, I think this kind of builds on what I mentioned earlier, where for me watching the tape, it looked like a team that didn't respect the Giants.
Yeah, I get that.
They're a bunch of dicks anyway. That team, they always have been. But like I said. Ezekiel Elliott goose-stepping into the end zone and just, the over-the-topness of some of their stuff. And, they're a division rival. And how important this game is. And they're kicking your ass and everything. And, frustration mounts. And, and it's going to be a problem because Kadarius Toney had a rough offseason. He's very flashy, plays the same position as when Odell Beckham did. So, a very lazy group of journalists, fans, callers, whoever, are going to go from A to B to Z really, really fast.
Oh, I mean, there's people who are itching to do that from the off season too. I mean, they have their pencils sharpened and their notebooks out. So
yeah, I mean, all the stuff that's gone on with Kadarius Toney in the off season, I wouldn't classify any of it as in the diva bucket, like things like Beckham was doing. His injuries, just unrelated things that just when they start adding up, it appears worse than it is. Having all that kind of going into this in a fight, that's not going to help his Q rating. But I don't know. He'll learn very quickly from this that it's unacceptable and untolerated. on this team and in the league, and I'm sure he'll think twice before doing that again. But it's not like he's just someone whose ego is, a diva's ego is swollen and he just lashed back. I think there was a lot going on that led to this.
I agree, and it's also he's really getting a taste of himself in the NFL. There's a lot that goes into. I don't really care that he got into a fight in this game. It's not really. My worry is for him. You know what I mean? The people have already been after him from the get-go. And again, it initially started with things that are outside of his control. Who's drafting him? I mean, it's not his fault who drafted him and when. So, people were getting on him immediately for that. That was a pretty small group of people, I think. But then, it's been getting to be a longer list over time, and as this team loses, they're going to need more and more scapegoats, and he's a real easy target, and I don't want that to happen to him. So I was more pissed it happened for that reason. I wanted him, if that was going to happen, I would hope that he had built more credibility other than 2 games of flashiness, but whatever. I'm okay with guys getting in fight, whatever. Just don't hurt yourself throwing fists at helmets and stuff like that. I'm glad he's not hurt from that. I will say, though, with Tony exceeding my expectations, a lot of people like to throw the South Carolina clip, right? From where he just kind of runs through 6 potential tacklers.
That's right.
I love that clip, and it's really fun to watch, but it's...
Me too.
I mean... There's not a whole lot of guys on that South Carolina secondary that were any good. And it's not J.C. Horn in coverage on him either. So It's fun, and but I always kept that in mind. It's how many of these guys are even making it to the NFL that he's running past?
But it is an SEC defense.
No. I know that. This isn't
against Southwest North Carolina regional state for the
No. I know all of that. That's not my point. My point is not at the college level. I knew who he was. My question was how much of his electricity is going to hold up in the NFL? And that clip in particular, because he's really just outrunning the shit out of those guys. Yesterday, he showed me that his electricity holds up because he's still getting better. I truly believe that. If he had that game at Florida against South Carolina, the way he just played against Dallas, I mean he would have had 6 touchdowns in this game. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, again, the problem why he didn't have the big numbers, again, because there was a lot of talent. I mean, it's a team that had Kyle Pitts. Yeah. Right? That's your number one target, who's an all-timer in college at the tight end position. So, if he's on a team let's say, the 98 Florida team where they had one receiver and they threw to that guy 15 times a game, God knows what his numbers are. But, when you're on talented college teams, you're going to share the rock a lot. He's going to have his, chances. We're going to see now with how long Mike Glennon's the quarterback, how many opportunities he really does get and the chances to be in successful positions. But he's a keeper. And, again, it's his 5th game as his rookie year. People are so quick to say bust when it's can we let the guy play a year or 2 before we make those decisions?
Yeah.
Stars and farts?
Yeah, well, we already hit on my some stuff here. My red zone play calling and the run defense; those were my 2 farts. I mean, it was hard to narrow it down to anything, so I saw no point in narrowing it down to 3. I felt 2 was good enough.
Special teams as a whole, I just gave it a big fart. I thought it was awful. I thought, first of all, Graham Gano misses a field goal. He's going to be on my shit list. Just CeeDee Lamb had some nice returns. Just a bad job of coverage. I
think Riley Dixon's first punt was a shank. Yeah.
I mean, that's just an overall fart for a unit which we expect, the I's dotted and the T's crossed with Joe Judge. So very disappointing on my part about that. I don't know. I mean, it's just the whole game is just a deflating fart. It just, we've hit that point in the season now where, they're 1-4. They're not catching Dallas most likely, and with your most important players could be on the shelf for quite a while. I am really worried about, that locker room. I'm worried about, can Joe Judge keep it together with his team? Because now we're in year 2. Yeah. And this could snowball out of control. We have a daunting schedule for the next 5-6 weeks. I mean, it's not inconceivable this team could be 1-8. Then what?
No, you're right. I'm right there with you. Um,
That's what's so. We're in the same position.
I will say, wait. I will say that I feel better about Joe Judge holding this locker room together than I did Pat Shurmur and Ben McAdoo.
Yeah.
Mainly because Joe Judge already has the credibility, and I think he's built a staff of guys that are a lot like him. So I don't know that there's a whole lot of like coaching favorites in the locker room or anything like that. I think he's built a strong enough coaching. No, I get it. I just yeah, pretty much. I think the players knew the expectations going into it. With Ben McAdoo, I think he's just too much of a player's coach. Couldn't change to being a hard ass.
He was in over his head. I think he wasn't ready to be a head coach at the time.
Yeah, and Pat Shurmur was definitely too much of a player's coach. I don't think he was much of a hard ass at all. I whatever. But I feel a little bit better about Joe Judge handling it than them, even though he's inexperienced. I think they knew who they were playing for immediately. I don't think it's so hard for them to accept punishment and the grind from him.
We're at 21 games now with Joe Judge. That was his 21st game, 16-5.
16-5.
I have a to be determined on Joe Judge.
Oh, is it great? Absolutely. It's just my gut feeling, yeah.
Yeah, my gut feeling is, I don't know. I mean, a lot of it, the conservatism is a major concern of mine.
Yeah.
But, and we'll see. Like, maybe this thing with, the punch is just a random occurrence, but I want to see how this team handles adversity. I mean, is this a team that's going to lose its cool after every game? Especially as the season kind of wears on and, the losses are probably going to start compounding. I mean, they got the Rams, they got Kansas City coming up.
And that Rams game, you can expect chippiness. It's going to happen. God. With Aaron Donald, it's going to happen.
And, that Kansas City game, Kansas City's they're a little bit in the muck right now, but guess what? They're probably licking their chops already, looking at this defense and something, and that might be just one of those, I guess Kansas City's okay kind of game. And it's just going to get worse and worse. So how's this team going to handle it? That's my big question.
Yeah, no, I have no idea either. I can guarantee you Kansas City is looking nowhere near us. If they're looking that far in the future, they're looking right past us. And I don't blame them at all, dude.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying
Patrick Mahomes' dumb little brother could throw for 500 yards on us.
But right now, that team is scuffing right now.
I get your point.
They need a game like the Giants to be like, okay, let's stop the bleeding. Let's prove we're still one of the elite teams in this league. And they couldn't get us at a better time. I mean, probably this week would be the best time for them, but next Monday night, they'll be at home. We're not Buffalo. Let's put it that way.
It's going to be a real pleasure being the Akron Zips.
Yeah.
I do want to mention.
$8 to be their homecoming team. That's fine.
I do want to mention some guys that played good. I gave star to Kadarius Tony. I assume that was obvious. 10 catches and 13 targets for 189 yards. Two insane catches on the sideline there, and very nearly had a touchdown. Very
on
nearly.
The spot, but what was the most receiving yards Beckham had in a game for the Giants?
He surpassed Beckham. Oh, ever?
I think
Giants. That. I don't know. I do know that Beckham had the rookie franchise record for most yards in a game by a rookie, and he beat it in this game, and then immediately got ejected.
189 is a huge number. For
that's a massive number for a rookie. That's like a Calvin Johnson number.
Considering half the game was with a backup quarterback, makes it even more impressive.
Yeah, I think a lot of his yard. I think at least 50% of his yard. No, I think it was more than that.
More than that. We're with Glennon. Absolutely.
Yeah. I want to give a star to Austin Johnson. Okay. Austin Johnson has been a consistently solid defensive lineman on both the running downs and passing downs, and nothing more than that. But in this game, 1 sack and 2 tackles for a loss. I mean, that looks star-worthy on this defense. And statistically, it's actually not bad. So, this is kind of like a makeup star. He's had good games, but they were always just kind of in my honorable mention category.
Star?
but kind of it kind of, I feel dumb doing this, but kind of it was just like, yeah, he had a good game, but it was like, is that star worthy? But now it's like he's strung a couple of them in a row. I feel like his overall performance is, He's made a collective first quarter of the season star. I'll fine. That's fine, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Hey, look, we make the rules. It's our show.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a thing.
I'm gonna give a star to the Grump for changing the rules and how to be a star because we need a lot of help this year. So you get a star, Grump.
Thank you. I wear it proudly in my chest.
Yes, there. I have a star for Lorenzo Carter for that pick.
Yeah, that was a big play and a very beginning. Yeah.
A very big, very athletic play, very important play. At the time, very important. But this is a defense that's struggling to make plays and, get the turnovers and do that. So I'm going to give him a star because, again, our bars for stars are pretty low this year. And if you do something well, you're going to get a star most likely. So I'll give Lorenzo a star for that.
I'm going to throw an honorable mention towards Evan Ingram.
Okay.
4 catches on 4 targets, and 3 of them looked really hard. Definitely 2 of them. 55 yards. He had one on the sideline that I swore that they had the wrong call on because I was like, there's no way he got both feet in. And on that replay, I was stunned. Not only that he got both feet in, but that the official saw it so clearly. I mean, it was a pretty damn good catch, and he takes a lot of criticism. I thought, without the all-22 for me showing him, I'm sure he got trucked in some blocking plays. So, honorable mention.
Let's be frank. I mean, we have to either showcase him if somebody wants to trade for him, or we're going to need him. If Galladay's out for a while, we need all the weapons we can get. So, we don't want him to be a wasted roster spot doing nothing. So, baby steps. This was maybe the start of his rehabilitation. I think he's too far gone for this team. Certainly in the long term scheme, but for this year where we're going to need his help, it's good to see him kind of showing some signs.
Other than that, I got nothing else on this at all.
I'm looking at my list right here, guys. I got nothing.
Yeah.
Looks bad.
I haven't really even figured out yet. Usually by now I know which drive I'm going to do for the defining drive. I might just do that red zone play calling. I really have no idea. The all-22 is not out yet, so that'll come out Wednesday evening.
I have a drive of the game. So I was staying at my parents' down in Florida. There's 3 traffic lights in between their house and the bar I watched the game at, that in the Rays game. I hit all 3 green lights. I didn't have to stop for one. It wasn't even a yellow. I timed it perfectly. That's my drive of the game.
Wow.
It was me getting to the bar. Yeah. It was
all
all downhill from there. Very, very disappointing.
As is typical with the Cranky Fan at the bar.
Yeah, unfortunately, gang, we're at that point of the year again where it's just kind of we're resigned to the fact that this season is most likely over. This is a division. We're not getting a wild card out of this division. These teams all stink. Dallas is in the position to potentially run away with it. Now it's just, we hope Daniel Jones comes back soon because this season's really about his development. I don't think it's a question of a decision making for him. Is he our quarterback or not? I think he needs reps. He needs to keep playing, and develop into the guy. I saw a list if the season ended today, what our draft status would be, which to me is as useless as if the season ended today, what would be in the playoffs. We still have 2/3 of a season left, but there's a very good chance, and I can't believe we're going to be saying this, that our draft pick will be better than the pick we traded for with Chicago. That's very frustrating, but I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that.
Well, we always assumed that if that were the case, that it would be because Daniel Jones fell apart. I don't think we ever assumed that we would feed half of our. Well, basically that half of our roster would fall into the meat grinder by accident. So, in all honesty, if we get into the situation where we're picking where we could get a quarterback and don't need one and don't want one, then that's a pretty enviable position to be in because that first round pick can become multiple first round picks. Who the hell knows? I don't really want to get into the draft talk though. So.
And remember, the guy, and again, I'll leave with this: that Spencer Rattler, who everybody thought was going to be the number 1 pick, his quarterback, got benched. In the Red River rivalry this year. So this isn't a year where there's an Andrew Luck or there's a Peyton Manning, or Trevor Lawrence out there. So I don't know. I don't know where we're going with this team.
Yeah, if
Let's
they're
get
gonna,
these guys. Let's get these guys healthy to start, and just to see what we have to work with. I mean, decisions have to be made about Saquon Barkley. I mean,
oh yeah,
I can't stay healthy, and sucks.
never thought that would be. In all honesty, like all of my draft evaluations, the Saquon Barkley can't stay healthy would not have ever appeared in my notes based on everything I watched on him. It really couldn't have predicted I mean, I knew he would be worse in the NFL. You know, you got better talent, you know, and quite frankly, he was playing on a worse team where he was going to be getting hit more and trying to do more than he should have to do. But the amount of, I mean, just walking and stepping on somebody's foot and having an insane looking sprain. I mean, that's actually kind of what just about every sprained ankle looks like. But
yeah, I mean, it's just that is losers lose. Something like that happening to a team like this. You never see, you know, on good teams those type of freak injuries happening. It's losers like us. Oh, God.
Yeah. Well, for more bright and cheery and sunny stuff, you can follow me on Twitter at @football_grump, where I'm just lambasting Troy Aikman for his pathetic. I want to talk about this actually. Troy Aikman.
Go for it.
I'm just going to mention this. In all of my years being a Giants fan who's had some kind of opinion on the internet, I have never been one to say that Troy Aikman has a significant Cowboys bias against the Giants. I've never really thought that it was, you know, I always thought that he kind of called it like he saw it, but I will say that on Sunday, this afternoon, he was at his worst, and I don't think it was an against the Giants kind of thing. He was like he was stoked that the Cowboys were finally good, that they were basically 4-1 and had creamed this other team. I mean, he was straight up lying about things at a certain point. He's like, they sent everybody to help Nate Solder on that play, and they show the replay, and that absolutely didn't happen, and like just. I mean, he was just like, he said something ridiculous, like Al Harris is going to be getting head coaching calls if Trayvon Diggs keeps playing the way he's playing, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. And it's like kind of light hyperbole, but like, is it?
Here's the problem, Grump, and it applies to all sports. And, you know, I probably got banned from Twitter last night for going off after the end of the baseball game. Perception is everything. It is everything in sports. Next to the final score, perception is all. And whether it's perceiving that something is rigged or not, or perceiving someone is biased or not, if enough people believe it, it is. And the problem with Troy Aikman, you know, that they Fox does so many Cowboy games, is that you perceive, you meaning everybody, not just you, but everybody perceives him to be a homer. I mean, it's only natural. The guy played there forever. He'll always be known as the Cowboy quarterback. And sure, you know, I think he still lives in Dallas. I think he does a radio spot in Dallas every week. How can he not? You know, he's in a very small fraternity of quarterbacks that coach the position. I mean, it's interesting. Have you watched a CBS game with Dallas with Tony Romo doing the Cowboys?
Probably like one or two.
Yeah, I'm trying to think when watching that, do you get the sense that he's biased towards Dallas? I think Tony Romo.
He's not really. Yeah, he's so positive about whoever he's watching that it doesn't. If it is, I mean, he's obviously got more insight, and he'll tell you things about the coaching staff, about Jerry Jones that he knows because he was there, and players he played with, like Des Bryant. He's got a lot of info on.
And he's not a suck up either. He's not like a John Gruden who just thought the last quarterback he saw is the greatest quarterback of all time, and he's not a Collinsworth who's just kind of like, you know, he's a smoocher too. He just gets so excited watching a game.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, Aikman he just doesn't add anything to the broadcast.
Yeah, it almost feels like in order to fill the void, he's got to suck up to somebody or say that somebody did something good.
He's like the Mike and Mike of announcers. He's safe, gives you the headlines, gives you the obvious things, but again, we live in a world where people listening to this podcast are listening to a very specific football show and probably have multiple ones they listen to, whether it's Giants or NFL. They read a lot. They don't get just get their information from the local sports radio station or the local newspaper. They know their stuff. And when you come down to somebody on a Sunday who dumbs things down and you get no insight from, it's frustrating. And that's what he is. He's no insight Aikman. He's just vanilla, not going to ruffle any feathers, just play it straight.
He's an analyst for people who are blind.
Yeah.
He's just going to tell you exactly what you could see on the screen.
Yeah.
Nothing more. In any case, you can follow me on Twitter at @football_grump, where I'm bitching about Troy Aikman, apparently.
I wish the only thing I could be bitching about right now would be Troy Aikman, but I can't. Catch me at the Cranky Fan, where by the time you get this on Tuesday morning, I'll either be getting ready to fly down to St. Pete for a Game 5, or I will be wandering the streets aimlessly, wondering what happened to my baseball team and why they were eliminated. Wondering why my football team is basically being eliminated. I don't know. I am on pins and needles right now. This probably is the best possible week for the Giants to lay this, massive turd and injury fest, because I've been a little distracted. So, but this is going to end soon enough, and we'll be back to kind of sorting out what we do the rest of this year. So, for everybody who follows me, thank you for sticking with me, and we'll get through this together.
All right, everyone. We will see you on Friday morning. Go Giants.
Go Giants.